only even in Western democracies, we still have only 10, 12, 15% representation of women in our legislative bodies. We still have only lesser percentages of women represented in management positions and so forth. So it isn't really surprising that there's less mention of women in the early Buddhist.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
What I meant is, all these rituals are created by human beings for us to practice, or is it part of Buddha's teaching?
Sorry, can I add to that question that she asked? That is, the rituals that we're going through, could it also be done through the tradition and the cultural, influence?
Oh yes, I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question. The rituals are not essential to the teaching of the Buddha, let me put it that way. But the rituals they facilitate, they make access to the teaching of the Buddha easier because they function, so to speak, as an introduction or a ladder or a pathway, if you like, to enter the practices. Certainly, rituals belong to the convention, the world of convention, to conventional reality. They could not possibly or ever belong to ultimate reality. Ultimate reality, which is beyond existence and non-existence, beyond duality and so forth, can have nothing to do with rituals. But rituals are forms. They are forms which help us to approach ultimate reality. They serve as vehicles or means of approaching ultimate reality, like a raft or like a ladder or a bridge. Do rituals take part in cultural forms? Of course they do, because those rituals will be more effective if they use cultural forms that are familiar to the practitioners. So, for example, in tantric rituals, you have a lot of symbolism of, say, the symbolism of royalty, thrones and crowns and such things. These are symbols which come out of our cultural context, but they're familiar to us because we are already familiar with them in our cultural context. So in that sense, they are easy. They're easy to use. They're handy because we're already familiar with them. So definitely, rituals do utilize elements that are taken from the popular culture, insofar as their form is concerned, they have more to do with culture than they do with the essential teachings. But they function as an introduction, as a means to approach the essential teachings. So I hope that was a little bit closer to.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, Doctor, I have one question. With regard to just now you said about Tara Puja, and this center has been doing Tara Puja almost since they started long ago. And the question is, why must we do Tara Puja, and what are the benefits? And of course, some knows that Tara Puja helps in many ways, as compared to if can we also do some other rituals like local deities, requests? Would it be the same as a Tara Puja or something else?
Well, I think that in the Buddhist context, we make a distinction between deities that are strictly worldly and deities that are bodhisattvas, deities that have also a liberating function or liberating power. Now, Tara is one of those deities that benefits practitioners greatly on the worldly level, on the material level, that can be of great benefit on the mundane level. But Tara also has a super mundane function. In other words, she is also a liberating deity. So the great advantage to doing a practice like Tara is that while it benefits us on the mundane level, which we all appreciate, we all appreciate a little bit of help on the everyday level, but it does more than that, because it also facilitates our progress toward liberation, our practice leading toward enlightenment. So that is really the benefit of doing the practice of a deity like Tara. Now, you asked about local deities and so forth. Even in Tibet, there were local deities. There are various deities associated with mountains and lakes and so forth. Most famous among them probably are the 12 guardian goddesses, or the Tema goddesses. One can propitiate them also for better crops and for freedom from disease and to protect one's livestock and so forth. But these deities don't have any liberating function. They don't have any supermundane or transcendental function. So when you propitiate them through an invocation or through a ritual or through offerings, the benefits will be only mundane. They will be only worldly. And that would be the same also with regard to strictly worldly local deities in whatever part of the world we may be living in. So although it's not prohibited, we're free to propitiate local deities for worldly purposes, but it is much more beneficial to propitiate a deity like Tara, to invoke a deity like Tara, because in addition to the worldly benefits, there are also the spiritual or super-mundane benefits. So I think that's why, the practice of Tara is recommended among above the propitiation of a strictly worldly deity.
Okay, Dr. Satina, can one do without ritual? In a Buddhist practice, can one do without ritual? And did the Buddha himself do any ritual? Did he do any ritual?
I think that it would be very difficult to live in the world without ritual. And when I say live in the world, I mean live with other human beings. It might be possible to live in isolation in the forest, in a cave. It might be possible to live in isolation without ritual, but I think it would be almost impossible, never mind religious ritual, but even on the worldly level, even insofar as simply going about one's business with other human beings, I think it would be almost impossible to live without some form of ritual. It is so important to our way of life. I mean, if you try to do without ritual altogether, what would you do, for example, when you meet someone? If you did not perform some form of greeting, extending your hand or joining your palms or nodding your head or whatever, the other person would find it very difficult to know how to behave with you, how to react to your presence. If you were to pick up the telephone, for example, and instead of saying hello, you were to say, for example, January, the other person would be very puzzled